Hello everybody, I'm going to be doing a quick Rumble guide. Take just a few minutes to go over all this. I'm going to go over the abilities, the runes and masteries that I use, also the summoner spells that I like to take, some of the item builds that I usually build on him as well. Alright, without any further ado, let's get started. Rumble's passive is Junkyard Titan. Basically, none of his abilities use any mana or energy. However, the bad thing is, each one of his abilities generate 20 heat when used. After 4 seconds of not using a basic ability, he will start losing heat at 10 per second, then at a rate of 20 heat per second after 2 seconds. The nice thing about him actually gaining heat is once he reaches 50 to 99 heat, he actually goes into the danger zone. Basically what it is, each one of his abilities temporarily have enhanced effects. Once you hit 100 heat, all Rumble spells are disabled for 6 seconds with the exception of like Flash, Ignite, Teleport, stuff of that nature. The other thing to take in consideration here is while you're silenced for those 6 seconds, your auto attacks are then doing additional magic damage. And a lot of times you can catch people off guard simply for the fact they won't be expecting you to do a whole lot of damage with just your auto attacks, but once you start getting a lot of AP, you can actually hit pretty hard. Rumble's Q is Flame Spitter. When he activates his Q, he does AoE damage every half second for 3 seconds in a cone shaped in front of him. When Rumble is in the danger zone, Flame Spitter's damage is increased by 50%. Rumble's second ability, his W, is Scrap Shield. When activated, Rumble pulls up a shield protecting himself for 2 seconds. In addition to the shield that he gets, which scales off AP, he does also gain a bonus to movement speed as well for 1 second. Whenever Rumble is in the danger zone, Scrap Shield's effects are increased by 50%. Rumble's third ability, his E, Electro Harpoon, is actually 2 parts. Rumble casts out a harpoon in the direction of the cursor, hits the target, does damage, as well as slows the target. If he hits the same target twice with the harpoon, refreshes the duration of the slow, as well as also doubles the amount of speed reduction. If you overheat casting the first harpoon, and that forces you to overheat, you will still be able to cast the second harpoon, even while overheated. In the danger zone, Electro Harpoon's effects are increased by 50%. Rumble's ultimate is the Equalizer. Rumble calls down a line of rockets using a click and drag style mechanic. It'll take you a while to get the hang of this, so I would recommend getting a lot of practice for you to get into a normal or a ranked game, simply because it's kind of hard to really get his ult position just the way you need it to be. I have seen well-placed Rumble ults actually win team fights simply for the fact that people couldn't avoid it. Rumble's ultimate leaves a trail of destruction for 5 seconds, dealing magic damage and also slowing the targets that are hit by that. So if you land that perfectly in a team fight, you can pick people off very easily, not to mention if they do decide to fight it, they won't take a lot of damage. As far as leveling up your abilities, I usually start off with 1 point Electro Harpoon first, then I start maxing out my Flame Spitter after that. Once my Flame Spitter is maxed out, then Scrap Shield, and then Electro Harpoon. And finally, of course, take your ultimate whenever possible. For runes, I use Ability Power Quints, Magic Pen Reds, Flat Armor Yellows, and I also use a mixture of Magic Resist per level and Flat. Probably better off actually using just straight up Magic Resist per level. For masteries, I use a 21-9 and 0 build. I'll actually include details on this in the description below. For summoner spells, I take Flash Teleport. You could also substitute Night for Teleport if you'd like, but me myself, I prefer Teleport simply for the fact it allows me to get around the map a lot quicker than I could without it. For starting items, I take Cloth Armor, 5 health pots. You could start Boots health pots if you'd like, that's fine. You could also do Dorian Shield and health pots, that's also great as well. Me myself, I just prefer the Cloth Armor since I built it into a Seeker's Armor. Rumble's core item is Liandry's Torment. It synergizes way too much with his E and his ult not to buy this item. On my first back, I usually try to rush the Haunted guys. From there on, I would have to finish my Seeker's Armor guard because I usually start with the Cloth Armor. From there, once I finish that, then rush my Liandry's. And from there, I usually, depending on if I want to finish my Azonia's Hourglass, or if I want to do my Death Cap. Really depends on how the game is going. As far as in-game items for Rumble, there's a lot of great items for them. As far as being a set in stone, always build all these items, that's not going to really happen because you have to build around what team you're facing, what is your team building. is the other team all AD. You know, there's several different factors in that. But you're always going to have a Leandries, of course. A lot of times I end up building a Zonia's. Rabadon's Death Cap for the extra AP. It's a staple for pretty much every mage champion in the game, with the exception of probably Rise. Rise is also a very good item as well. Adds an extra slow with your flamethrower. Hit multiple targets. Granted, this slow has been reduced by quite a bit for AoE spells, but being able to slow somebody for 15% is still very good on him as well. Combine that with all the other slows that you have. Abyssal Scepter is a very good item to build in Rumble. I typically build it over Void Staff simply for the fact that I'm in front line. I'm in the middle of the group, reducing everybody's magical resist at this point by 20. Granted, that's not a whole lot in the end game, so a lot of times Void Staff might be the more beneficial, but if I have, like, say, an Ahri mid or another AP champion mid, then that extra AP reduction is very good. Some final tips for playing Rumble. You want to try to keep your heat above 50 simply because it amplifies all the damage of all of your abilities with the exception of the equalizer. The other thing to keep in mind is a lot of times you can use your scrap shield to actually do exchanges and come out ahead. You can also use the speed boost from the scrap shield combined with your harpoon to escape ganks. Don't really have a whole lot of mobility, but you do have quite a bit of utility. As well as escaping ganks, you can also use the same combination of scrap shield to get closer, harpoon to then be able to land the slow so you can either finish them off or so the rest of your team can then close the gap. One other thing to remember in team fights, your equalizer cannot be cast while you're silenced, so you might want to actually throw that off at the start of the team fights. And the most important thing to remember is make sure you do not use smart cast with your ultimate. It will screw you up pretty much every time. This pretty much concludes my Rumble guide. I hope that y'all learned some information from this. I'd like to thank y'all for watching. This is actually my first attempt at ever making the guide, so please let me know how I done in the comments below. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up. If you have any suggestions, please leave them down below in the comments so I can work on improving on that stuff. If you'd like to stick around, I'll do a kill compilation. Thank y'all for watching.
Aced.